Sophia Chen rushed through the morning streets, her worn black heels clicking against the wet pavement. Rain had started falling, and she clutched her portfolio tighter, protecting the marketing presentations inside. At 25, Sophia worked as a marketing assistant at Sterling Corporation, one of the biggest tech companies in the city. Every morning felt like a race against time. She pushed through the glass doors of her favorite coffee shop, shaking droplets from her dark hair. The warm aroma of fresh coffee and pastries welcomed her. This small ritual was her only luxury in an otherwise tight budget. "The usual?" asked Jenny, the friendly barista who knew Sophia's order by heart. "Please," Sophia smiled, fishing for her wallet. "Large coffee? No sugar? Extra cream?" Behind her, a deep voice spoke quietly. "I'll have the same, and I'll pay for both." Sophia turned around, surprised. A tall man with kind brown eyes stood behind her, wearing a simple gray sweater and dark jeans. He had the sort of face that made you look twice, handsome but approachable. His dark hair was slightly messy, as if he had been running his hands through it. "You don't need to do that," Sophia protested. But he was already handing money to Jenny. "Consider it a random act of kindness," he said with a warm smile. "I'm Daniel, by the way." "Daniel Rivers." "Sophia. Thank you. That's really sweet of you." She studied his face, trying to place him. Something about him seemed familiar, but she couldn't quite figure out what. The new employee 2 hours later. Sophia sat in the Sterling Corporation conference room, preparing for the morning team meeting. Her boss, Margaret Walsh, was known for her sharp tongue and impossible deadlines. Today would bring news about their new projects and the company's recent changes in leadership. "Good morning,"
Margaret
announced, her voice echoing in the large room. "Before we begin, I'd like you all to meet our new team member. He'll be working closely with our marketing department." The conference room door opened, and Sophia nearly dropped her coffee cup. Daniel Rivers walked in, looking professional in a navy suit, still wearing that same warm smile. "This is Daniel Rivers," Margaret continued. "He comes to us with excellent recommendations and will be helping with our upcoming campaigns." Sophia's mind raced. What were the chances? The man who had bought her coffee was now her new colleague. Daniel's eyes found hers across the room. He gave her a small nod of recognition. Double quotes. "Daniel, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?" Margaret suggested. "I'm excited to be here," Daniel began, his voice confident but humble. "I believe in creating marketing that connects with people on a personal level. I look forward to working with all of you after the meeting." Sophia gathered her papers, still processing the coincidence. Daniel approached her desk as she was organizing her files. "Small world," he said. Leaning against her desk casually. "Very small," Sophia agreed, looking up at him. "So you're in marketing too?" "Among other things," Daniel replied mysteriously. "Would you mind showing me around?" "I'd love to learn how things work here." The hidden truth what Sophia didn't know was that Daniel Rivers was actually Daniel Blackwood, the new CEO of Sterling Corporation. 3 months ago, his father had passed away unexpectedly, leaving him the company. But Daniel had a problem. He wanted to understand his business from the ground up, to know his employees and see how the company really operated, so he had made a radical decision. He would work undercover in his own company, using a false identity. Only the board of directors and his personal assistant knew the truth. He wanted to experience the real workplace culture before taking his official position as CEO. Daniel had been watching the marketing department closely. Sophia Chen had caught his attention immediately. Her dedication, creativity, and genuine care for her work impressed him. She stayed late, helped colleagues without being asked, and brought fresh ideas to every project. Sophia's secret burden as days passed. Daniel and Sophia began working together on various projects. During their lunch breaks, they would sit in the company cafeteria, sharing stories and ideas. Daniel was careful to maintain his cover, but he found himself genuinely enjoying Sophia's company. "You seem tired today, Daniel," observed one afternoon. Noticing the dark circles under Sophia's eyes, Sophia hesitated, then sighed. "My brother Tommy is in the hospital again. He has a rare heart condition, and the treatments are expensive. I've been picking up extra work to help pay for his medical bills." Daniel's heart clenched. He had suspected Sophia was dealing with something difficult, but hearing the truth made him want to help immediately. However, he had to be careful not to reveal his true identity. "Is there anything I can do to help?" he asked gently. "That's sweet of you, but no. This is something I need to handle myself," Sophia replied, forcing a smile. "Tommy is only 16. He's smart and funny, and he has his whole life ahead of him. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure he gets better." Growing closer over the next few weeks, Daniel found reasons to spend more time with Sophia. They worked on presentations together, grabbed coffee during breaks, and slowly became friends. Daniel was amazed by Sophia's strength and positive attitude despite her challenges. One evening, they were both working late on a major presentation for a new client. The office was quiet, with only the cleaning crew and a few dedicated employees remaining. "This campaign is brilliant," Daniel said, looking at Sophia's design mock-ups. "You have a real talent for understanding what customers want." Sophia blushed at the compliment. "Thank you. I just try to think about what would make me stop and pay attention." "That's exactly the right approach," Daniel agreed. He moved his chair closer to look at her computer screen, and Sophia caught a hint of his cologne. It was subtle and expensive, which seemed odd for someone in their entry-level position. "Daniel, can I ask you something?" Sophia said suddenly. "Of course, you don't seem like the typical new hire. You have this confidence about you, like you've been in charge of things before. And your clothes, they're really nice quality." Daniel's pulse quickened. He had been so careful, but Sophia was observant. "I've had various jobs before this one, some more responsible positions. As for clothes, I believe in investing in good pieces that last." It wasn't exactly a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Daniel was walking a fine line, and he knew it. The first spark that night. As they finally finished their work, Daniel offered to drive Sophia home. She had mentioned earlier that her car was in the shop for repairs she couldn't afford. "You don't have to do that," Sophia protested. "But she looked tired, and it was nearly midnight. I insist." "It's not safe to take the bus this late." During the drive, they talked about their dreams and ambitions. Sophia shared her hope of eventually starting her own marketing consultancy, while Daniel spoke carefully about wanting to make a positive impact in business. When they reached Sophia's modest apartment building, Daniel walked her to the door. "Thank you for tonight," Sophia said, turning to face him. "For the ride, and for being such a great work partner." "Thank you for letting me help," Daniel replied. They stood close together under the dim porch light, and for a moment, the air between them felt charged with possibility. Daniel wanted to kiss her, but he held back. His deception was already complicated enough. Instead, he squeezed her hand gently. "See you tomorrow, Sophia. See you tomorrow." Daniel. As Daniel drove away, he realized he was in deep trouble. He had started this undercover mission to understand his company better, but now he was falling for one of his employees, and she had no idea who he really was. Sophia watched his taillights disappear into the night, pressing her fingers to her lips. She was starting to have feelings for Daniel Rivers, her mysterious colleague who seemed too good to be true. Little did she know that her instincts were right to be suspicious. But for reasons she could never have imagined, the foundation of their relationship was built on secrets. But the emotions growing between them were completely real. Sophia arrived at work the next morning with butterflies in her stomach. The memory of standing close to Daniel under the porch light kept replaying in her mind. She had barely slept, thinking about the way he had looked at her. The warmth in his voice when he said goodnight. She settled at her desk, trying to focus on her morning emails, when a steaming cup of coffee appeared beside her keyboard. Daniel stood there with that familiar smile, holding his own cup. "Thought you might need this after our late night," he said, settling into the chair next to her desk. "You're becoming a habit," Sophia laughed, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. "A very nice habit. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Daniel asked, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Before Sophia could answer, Margaret Walsh's sharp voice cut through the morning chatter. "Chen, Rivers, my office. Now." They exchanged worried glances and followed Margaret into her glass-walled office. She closed the door behind them and crossed her arms. The Henderson Industries presentation you two worked on last night. Margaret began, her expression unreadable. I've reviewed it. Sophia's heart sank. Had they made a mistake? She had been so distracted by Daniel's presence that maybe she had missed something important. It's brilliant, Margaret continued, and Sophia nearly fell off her chair in relief. Henderson Industries loved it. They want to move forward with a 6-month contract. Congratulations, office. Complications news of their success spread quickly through the office, but not everyone was happy about it. Rebecca Martinez, a senior marketing associate who had been with the company for 5 years, watched Daniel and Sophia's growing partnership with increasing jealousy. It's not fair. Rebecca complained to her friend Jessica during lunch. That new guy Daniel shows up, and suddenly he's Margaret's favorite. And don't get me started on how Sophia follows him around like a lost puppy. Maybe they're just good at working together, Jessica suggested diplomatically. Please. I've seen the way they look at each other. There's definitely something going on there, Rebecca said, stabbing her salad with unnecessary force. Mark my words, this is going to end badly for both of them. Office romances always do. Meanwhile, Daniel was having his own complications. His personal assistant, Catherine Park, had been calling him repeatedly about CEO matters that needed his attention. He had been dodging board meetings and important decisions for weeks, claiming he needed more time to evaluate the company culture. Mr. Blackwood, Catherine said during one of their private phone calls, the board is getting impatient. They expect you to officially take over the CEO position next month. How much longer can you maintain this charade? Daniel looked across the office at Sophia, who was animatedly explaining a concept to a colleague, her hands gesturing expressively. Just a little longer, Catherine. I need to understand something first. This wouldn't have anything to do with a certain marketing assistant, would it? Catherine's voice was knowing. Daniel didn't answer. But his silence spoke volumes, growing attraction despite the office drama swirling around them. Daniel and Sophia's connection continued to deepen. They began taking their lunch breaks together, walking to a nearby park where they could talk away from curious colleagues. Tell me about your family, Sophia asked one sunny afternoon as they sat on a bench overlooking the city skyline. Daniel hesitated. His real family story involved private schools, luxury vacations, and a father who had built a business empire. But Daniel Rivers, the character he was playing, needed a different background. My parents died when I was young, he said quietly, which was actually true about his mother. I was raised by my uncle. He taught me the value of hard work and treating people with respect. Sophia reached over and squeezed his hand. I'm sorry. That must have been difficult. The touch of her skin against his sent electricity through Daniel's entire body. He looked down at their joined hands, marveling at how right it felt. What about you? Besides Tommy, do you have other family? Daniel asked, desperate to change the subject before he revealed too much. Just me and Tommy now. Our parents died in a car accident 3 years ago. That's when Tommy's heart condition got worse. The stress, the doctor said. Sophia's voice grew quiet. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing him, like I should be doing more. Sophia, look at me, Daniel said firmly. When she met his eyes, he continued, You're not failing anyone. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. Tommy is lucky to have you. Tears gathered in Sophia's eyes. Thank you for saying that. Sometimes, I just need to hear it. Daniel wanted to tell her that he could solve all her financial problems with a single phone call. He wanted to reveal that he had access to the best doctors, the most advanced treatments, anything Tommy needed. But he was trapped by his own deception. The first kiss 2 weeks later, Daniel and Sophia were working late again, this time on a presentation for the company's annual charity fundraiser. The irony wasn't lost on Daniel that he was helping plan a charity event for the company he actually owned. I think we should focus on local causes, Sophia suggested, pulling up statistics on her computer. Heart disease research, children's hospitals, education programs, things that directly impact our community. Daniel watched her work, admiring her passion and dedication. In the soft glow of her computer screen, she looked beautiful and determined. You really care about this? He observed. Of course I do. When you've seen how much good charity can do in people's lives, how can you not care? Sophia turned to face him, and suddenly they were sitting very close together. The office was quiet around them, with only the distant hum of the cleaning crew's vacuum cleaner. Daniel's hand came up to brush a strand of hair away from Sophia's face. "Sophia," he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. "Yes. I know this is complicated with us working together, but I can't stop thinking about you." Sophia's breath caught. "I can't stop thinking about you either." Daniel leaned closer, giving her every opportunity to pull away. Instead, she met him halfway, their lips touching in a kiss that was gentle, sweet, and full of promise. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. "This changes things," Sophia whispered. "Yes, it does," Daniel agreed, resting his forehead against hers. "But I don't want to go back to pretending I don't have feelings for you. Neither do one secret romance for the next month." Daniel and Sophia conducted a secret office romance. They were careful not to show their feelings during work hours, but they found stolen moments together. Coffee runs became mini-dates. Late nights at the office turned into intimate conversations, and their weekend text exchanges grew longer and more personal. Daniel had never experienced anything like this before. In his real life, as a billionaire's son, women had always been interested in his money and status. But Sophia cared about Daniel Rivers, the person she thought he was. She loved his sense of humor, his kindness, his work ethic. She had no idea about his wealth or power. One Saturday evening, Daniel took Sophia to a small family-owned Italian restaurant. It was the kind of place Daniel Rivers might be able to afford. Not the exclusive establishments Daniel Blackwood usually frequented. "This is perfect," Sophia said, looking around at the checkered tablecloths and vintage photographs covering the walls. "How did you find this place?" "I like discovering hidden gems," Daniel replied, which was true. He was discovering that some of the best experiences came from simple pleasures, not expensive ones. Over dinner, they talked about everything and nothing. Sophia told him about Tommy's latest doctor's appointment, sharing both hope and worry. Daniel listened intently, filing away information about Tommy's treatment options for later research. "Can I ask you something?" Sophia said as they shared a piece of tiramisu. "Always. Sometimes I get the feeling you're hiding something from me." "Not anything bad," she added quickly, seeing his expression. "Just like there's more to your story than you're telling me." Daniel's heart pounded. "What makes you say that?" "Little things. The way you carry yourself, like you're used to being in charge. How you always seem to know exactly what to say in business situations. And your hands?" She reached across the table to touch his fingers. "They're too soft for someone who's supposedly worked manual jobs." Daniel looked down at his manicured hands, cursing himself for such an obvious oversight. "I use good hand cream," he said weakly. Sophia laughed. "Okay, I'll accept that explanation for now. But Daniel, I want you to know that whatever your past is, it doesn't matter to me. I care about who you are now with me." The guilt hit Daniel like a physical blow. Here was this incredible woman, offering him unconditional acceptance, while he continued to lie to her every single day. The charity Galetha Company's annual charity gala arrived faster than expected. It was being held at the Grand Metropolitan Hotel, the same venue where Daniel's father used to host similar events. The irony was almost too much to bear. Sophia had bought a simple black dress from a discount store, but she looked stunning. Daniel, meanwhile, had to be careful not to wear anything too expensive or familiar to the other attendees, who knew his real identity. "You look beautiful," Daniel told Sophia as they entered the ballroom together. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she replied, straightening his tie affectionately. The event was a success, raising significant funds for local charities. Daniel watched with pride as Sophia networked effortlessly, charming potential donors and explaining the marketing campaigns they had developed. But as the evening progressed, Daniel noticed several board members watching him curiously. He had been so focused on Sophia that he had forgotten to maintain his cover completely. His natural confidence and business acumen were showing through his carefully constructed persona. "Daniel Rivers." A voice called behind him. Daniel turned to find Robert Chen, one of his father's oldest friends, and a current board member. Robert's eyes were sharp with recognition and confusion. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" Daniel asked, his mouth dry with fear. Robert studied his face intently. "You look remarkably like someone I knew. Someone who should be running this company right about now." Before Daniel could respond, Sophia appeared at his side, slipping her arm through his. "Robert, I see you've met Daniel. He's been such a valuable addition to our marketing team." "Has he now?" Robert's voice was thoughtful. "How interesting." As Robert walked away, Daniel realized his time was running out. Soon, someone would connect the dots, and his carefully constructed world would come crashing down. The question was, would Sophia forgive him when she learned the truth? Looking at her radiant smile as she talked to another donor, Daniel made a decision. He had to tell her everything, but not here, not tonight. Tomorrow, he would find the courage to reveal his true identity and hope that their love was strong enough to survive the revelation. But tomorrow would bring challenges neither of them expected, and the truth would prove more complicated than Daniel could have imagined. Daniel woke up before dawn on Monday morning, his stomach churning with anxiety. He had spent the entire weekend rehearsing what he would say to Sophia, how he would explain his deception. Every scenario he imagined ended badly, but he knew he couldn't continue living this lie. He arrived at the office early, hoping to catch Sophia before the workday officially began. But as he walked through the marketing department, he noticed something was different. People were whispering in small groups, their voices hushed and urgent. "Daniel," Margaret Walsh called out sharply from her office. "My office, now," as he walked toward Margaret's office. Daniel caught snippets of conversation from his colleagues. "Can you believe it? I had no idea he was related to... ... This explains so much about why he got promoted so quickly... ... Daniel's blood ran cold. Somehow, his secret was out. The confrontation Margaret's office felt smaller than usual, crowded with tension. She sat behind her desk with a newspaper spread open, her expression a mixture of anger and confusion. "Sit down," Margaret commanded. Not looking up from the paper, Daniel sat, his palms sweating. He could see the headline from where he sat. "Missing heir found. Daniel Blackwood working undercover in own company." "Care to explain this?" Margaret asked, finally meeting his eyes. The newspaper article featured a photo of Daniel at the charity gala, standing next to Sophia. Someone had recognized him and sold the story to the press. The article detailed how the heir to Blackwood Industries had been working under a false name in his own company's marketing department. "I can explain," Daniel began, but Margaret held up her hand. "I trusted you," she said quietly. "We all did. Sophia especially. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Before Daniel could answer, there was a knock on the office door. Through the glass walls, Daniel could see Sophia standing outside, holding the same newspaper. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with shock and hurt. "Come in, Sophia," Margaret called. Sophia entered slowly, her hands trembling as she held the newspaper. She looked directly at Daniel, searching his face for some sign that this was all a mistake. "Is it true?" she whispered. Daniel stood up, wanting to reach for her, but the look in her eyes stopped him cold. "Sophia, let me explain. ... Is it true?" She repeated, her voice stronger now but filled with pain. "Yes," Daniel said quietly. "It's true." The newspaper slipped from Sophia's fingers and fluttered to the floor. The silence in the office was deafening. The fallout word spread through the office like wildfire. By lunchtime, everyone knew that Daniel Rivers was actually Daniel Blackwood, the company's rightful CEO. The reactions ranged from excitement to anger to confusion. Rebecca Martinez was practically gleeful. "I knew something was off about him," she told anyone who would listen. "And poor Sophia. Imagine finding out your boyfriend is actually your boss's boss's boss." But most of the marketing team felt betrayed. They had trusted Daniel, confided in him, treated him as an equal. Now they wondered what else he had been lying about. Sophia had disappeared after the meeting with Margaret. She wasn't at her desk, wasn't answering her phone, and nobody had seen her leave the building. Daniel spent the day in emergency meetings with the board of directors, just trying to explain his actions. The board was split between admiration for his hands and approach and concern about the potential legal and public relations complications. You've created a mess. Son, Robert Chen said during one particularly tense meeting. That young woman in marketing, she had no idea who you were. None, Daniel admitted. I wanted to understand the company culture without the influence of my position. And now, what happens to your relationship with her? Daniel's throat tightened. I don't know. Sophia's heartbreak. Sophia sat in the hospital waiting room, watching Tommy sleep in his bed. She had come here after leaving the office, needing the comfort of her brother's presence, even though he was too weak to talk much. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from colleagues, friends, and reporters who had somehow gotten her number. But the messages she wanted most from Daniel never came. She stared at Tommy's peaceful face, remembering all the times Daniel had asked about him, had listened to her worries, had offered support. Had any of it been real? Or was she just another part of his corporate experiment? Sophia. Tommy's weak voice pulled her from her thoughts. You look sad. What's wrong? She forced a smile for her brother's sake. Just work stuff, Tommy. Nothing important. Is it about that guy you mentioned? Daniel. Sophia's breath caught. She had mentioned Daniel to Tommy during one of his better days. Unable to hide her growing feelings. Sort of, she admitted. Do you want to tell me about it? Sophia looked at her 16-year-old brother, who was fighting for his life, but still wanted to comfort her. The unfairness of it all. Tommy's illness, her financial struggles, Daniel's deception, lied her like a wave. He lied to me, Tommy, about everything, about loving you. The simple question cut straight to the heart of Sophia's pain. Had Daniel's feelings been real, or was she just another employee to study? I don't know, she whispered. Daniel's desperate plan. While Sophia was at the hospital, Daniel was in his real office. The CEO's suite that had been waiting for him on the top floor of the Sterling Corporation building. The space was impressive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Expensive artwork and a desk large enough to land a small plane, but Daniel barely noticed his surroundings. He was focused on his computer screen, making phone calls. And formulating a plan? His first call was to Dr. Elizabeth Warren, the best cardiac surgeon on the West Coast. Dr. Warren, this is Daniel Blackwood. I need your help with a case. A 16-year-old boy named Tommy Chen with a rare heart condition. Money is no object. I want the best possible care. His second call was to Catherine Park. Catherine, I need you to set up a meeting with Sophia Chen. Tomorrow, neutral location. And prepare a contract for her marketing consultancy idea. Generous terms. Sir, are you sure this is wise? The press is having a field day with this story. I don't care about the press, Daniel said firmly. I care about making this right. The meeting the next morning, Sophia received a call from Catherine Park, requesting a meeting at a small coffee shop downtown. The same coffee shop where she and Daniel had first met. Sophia almost refused. But curiosity and a small part of her that still hoped for answers made her agree. She arrived to find Daniel already there, sitting at a corner table. He looked different in his expensive suit, more polished and intimidating. This was the real Daniel Blackwood, she realized. Not the approachable colleague she had fallen in love with. Thank you for coming, Daniel said as she sat across from him. I almost didn't. Sophia's voice was cool, professional. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. I know you hate me, Daniel began. I don't hate you, Sophia interrupted. I don't know you well enough to hate you. That's the problem. Daniel flinched. Everything I felt for you was real, Sophia. My feelings, our conversations, the way I felt when I was with you. That was all real, but everything else was a lie. Yes. Sophia appreciated his honesty, even though it hurt. Why, Daniel? Why did you do this? Daniel took a deep breath and told her everything. His father's death, his fear of taking over the company, his desire to understand his employees' lives, his plan to work undercover. I never meant for this to happen, he finished. I never meant to fall in love with you. Sophia's heart jumped at his words, but she forced herself to remain calm. Love? You think this is love? Love is built on trust, on honesty. What we had was built on lies. What we had was real, Daniel insisted. I know I handled this badly, but my feelings for you are genuine. Sophia stood to leave. I need time to think about this. Wait. Daniel pulled out an envelope. I've arranged for Tommy to see Dr. Elizabeth Warren. She's the best cardiac surgeon in the country. All expenses covered. Sophia stared at the envelope as if it might bite her. You think you can buy my forgiveness? No. I think I can help your brother get the care he needs. This isn't about us, Sophia. This is about Tommy. Despite her anger, Sophia took the envelope. Tommy's health was more important than her pride. The corporate conspiracy while Daniel and Sophia were navigating their personal crisis. A bigger threat was emerging. The press attention had attracted the notice of Marcus Fitzgerald, a corporate raider who had been circling Blackwood Industries for months, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Fitzgerald saw Daniel's undercover stint as proof that the young CEO was unstable and unfit to lead. He began buying up shares and convincing other investors that the company needed new leadership. The boy is playing dress-up instead of running his company, Fitzgerald told his team of lawyers and financial advisors. We can use this scandal to our advantage. Catherine Park brought this news to Daniel during an emergency meeting, sir. Fitzgerald has acquired 15% of the company's shares in the last week. If he gets to 25%, he can call for a vote of no confidence. Daniel ran his hands through his hair. What's our position with the other major shareholders? Shaky. They're concerned about the negative publicity and your unconventional leadership approach. Daniel realized that his personal crisis was about to become a corporate disaster. He needed to act fast to save his company, but more importantly, needed to prove to Sophia and to himself that he was worthy of the trust that had been placed in him. Tommy's surgery Dr. Warren examined Tommy and confirmed that he was a candidate for a new, experimental procedure that could significantly improve his quality of life. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. Sophia sat beside Tommy's bed the night before the operation. Holding his hand, I'm not scared, Tommy said. Though his grip on her hand was tight, I know you're not. You're braver than anyone I know, Sophia, about this Daniel guy. The one who's paying for the surgery, what about him? He must care about you a lot to do something this big. Sophia had been thinking the same thing. Whatever Daniel's motives had been for his deception, his actions now suggested genuine concern for her well-being. Maybe she admitted, when I get better, maybe you should talk to him again. Really talk to him. The grand gesture on the day of Tommy's surgery, Daniel waited in the hospital lobby. He hadn't asked to be there, hadn't even told Sophia he was coming. He just needed to be nearby in case she needed anything. The surgery took 8 hours. Daniel sat in those uncomfortable plastic chairs, drinking terrible coffee and watching Sophia pace the waiting room. She had acknowledged his presence with a nod, but hadn't spoken to him. Finally, Dr. Warren emerged with good news. The surgery had been successful. Tommy would need time to recover, but his prognosis was excellent. Sophia burst into tears of relief, and without thinking, Daniel crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. For a moment, she let him hold her, let herself take comfort in his strength. Thank you, she whispered against his chest. You don't need to thank me. Sophia pulled back to look at him. Yes, I do. Whatever happens between us, you saved my brother's life. I'll never forget that. The truth about Love a week later. With Tommy recovering well and the immediate crisis over, Daniel made one final gesture. He called Sophia and asked her to meet him at the Sterling Corporation building after hours. She found him in the marketing department, sitting at his old desk. It's the one where he had worked as Daniel Rivers. I've been thinking about what you said, Daniel began. About love being built on trust and honesty. Sophia sat in her own chair. It's the same setup they had shared for months. I realize that I never really told you who I am, Daniel continued. Not Daniel Blackwood, the CEO, and not Daniel Rivers, the fake employee. Just Daniel, the man who fell in love with an incredible woman named Sophia Chen. For the next hour, Daniel talked. He told Sophia about his childhood, lonely, despite all the privileges. He talked about his fears of inadequacy, his grief over his father's death. his genuine desire to be worthy of leading the company. He shared his hopes and dreams, his insecurities and strengths. "This is who I really am," he finished. "Flawed, sometimes misguided, but completely and utterly in love with you." Sophia had listened quietly, seeing past the deception to the man underneath. "I've been angry," she said finally. "Hurt and confused and angry. But I've also been thinking about the man I fell in love with. His kindness, his humor, the way he made me feel like I could accomplish anything. Was that man real?" "He was the most real I've ever been." Sophia stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. "If we do this, if we try to make this work, it has to be different. No more lies, no more deception. Complete honesty, even when it's hard." Daniel joined her at the window. "I promise. Complete honesty. And I want to earn my place in your world. I don't want to be seen as the CEO's girlfriend who got special treatment. I want to build my consulting business on my own merit. Deal. But I reserve the right to be your biggest supporter and your most enthusiastic client." Sophia smiled, the first genuine smile she had given him since the truth came out. "I think I can live with that." The new beginning 6 months later, Sophia's marketing consultancy was thriving. She had moved into a small office space downtown and had several major clients, including Sterling Corporation. Tommy was back in school, healthy and happy. Talking about his plans for college, Daniel had successfully fought off Fitzgerald's takeover attempt and had proven himself as a capable CEO. The board's confidence in him had been restored, and the company was more profitable than ever. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, Daniel and Sophia walked through the same park where they used to have lunch together during his undercover days. "Do you ever regret it?" Sophia asked, referring to his decision to work incognito. "Never," Daniel replied without hesitation. "If I hadn't done it, I never would have met you. I never would have understood what it means to love someone for who they truly are, even though it almost cost us everything." Daniel stopped walking and pulled Sophia into his arms, especially because of that. "The fact that we survived it, that we chose to trust each other despite everything, that's how I know what we have is real." He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Right there in the middle of the park where their love had grown from deception into something beautiful and true. A year later, Daniel proposed to Sophia at the coffee shop where they had first met. With Jenny the barista serving as an enthusiastic witness, their wedding was a celebration of love conquering deception, of two people who chose to see past mistakes to the truth underneath. Tommy walked Sophia down the aisle. Healthy and strong, a living testament to the power of love and second chances as they exchanged vows. Daniel promised to always be honest with Sophia, to never let pride or fear come between them again. Sophia promised to trust in their love even when circumstances seemed impossible. They had learned that the best love stories aren't about perfect people, it's finding each other. They're about flawed people choosing to love each other completely, honestly, and forever. And they lived happily ever after, proving that sometimes the most beautiful relationships are built on the foundation of forgiven mistakes and hard-won trust. The end.